develop business development facility services. It's a Black and McDonald company. So we essentially provide conditions to perform work at mainly military installations and airports or airports. And
Good evening.
basically,
Call the meeting to order. Welcome to this evening's Committee of Adjustment meeting. The Council of the Municipality of East Ferris has empowered this committee to make decisions on a minor variance and consent to sever applications on their behalf. The committee is made up of 5 citizen members and 2 members of council. The members are as follows. Steve, would you start off, please?
Stephanie Holmes,
Harry Hanselman, staff.
Terry Kelly, council.
Greg Curtin, staff.
Lauren Ray Akers, council.
Frank Corbeil.
Thank you very much. As required under the Planning Act and pursuant to policy, the committee is holding a public meeting prior to making a decision on the proposed applications. The Committee of Adjustment has not yet made any decisions on these matters, and all comments received prior to this evening's meeting, as well as comments received tonight during the meeting, will be considered in the decision. The committee makes our decision based on the criteria outlined in the Planning Act that corresponds to the specific application type. Pardon me. The process will be as follows. I will ask the applicant or applicants to present their application in the order listed on the agenda. The committee will then ask any questions they have of the applicant. Staff will provide their comments about the application, give an overview of correspondence that's been received, if any. Members of the public will present and answer questions if needed. We will allow for a 10-minute maximum time limit on all public comments to the committee. We will then move to a motion to approve or refuse the application. We'd ask that everyone be respectful in their presentations and comments should be directly related to the application. If any committee members have a conflict of interest with regards to any items on tonight's agenda, would they please declare that? And seeing none, I'll move on. If any members of the public wish to be notified of the decisions at this evening's public hearings, please leave your contact information on the sheet provided at the side of the room or email greg.curtin@eastferris.ca, and that's all small case letters. We will now move to the first item on the agenda. And we'll call the meeting to order. Have a mover for the adoption of the agenda, please. Steve, thank you. All in favor? Passed. Accepting the minutes of previous meetings, can I have a mover and a seconder, please? All in favor? Any business arising for the minutes? Seeing none. Chair's comments, I'd like to take this opportunity to express our mixed feelings about Mr. John Simmons resigning from the board. And I say mixed because he was an excellent member of our committee. And he's got a lot of knowledge and a number of years and a dedicated volunteer. So we're sorry to see him go, but it's for personal reasons. And like everybody, he's busy and everything seems to climb up with grandchildren and so on and so forth. So we're going to send him a letter on behalf of council and certainly on the behalf of the committee as well. So if you see John, express our thanks, but we'll be sending him a formal notice of thanks as well. Ratepayers delegations, none for this session as far as I know. Public hearings. First one is B 2024-26 to B 2024-33. Teluk Geomatics on behalf of 1,328,150. Could they have any more numbers on that? Ontario Inc., which is Dan DeGagne, vacant land on Levine Road and Corbeil Road. Would you please come forward? The purpose of the requested consent is to allow for the creation of 8 new lots for residential purposes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Steve MacArthur, Senior Planner with Teluk Geomatics in North Bay. Didn't expect to be back here this year, but here we are. The application that you have before you tonight necessitated our coming forward at this time, and I can explain that as we walk through it quickly. Of course, part of our proposal and part of our application is to do a planning justification briefing, which I know you have a copy of that checks its consistency with the provincial policy statement, the official plan and the zoning bylaw. The subject site is on Levine Road, and we're talking about the frontage specifically on Levine Road, and the creation of some infill lots fronting, all fronting onto. Right. Lands represent, of course, a much larger land holding, that our clients own, and some adjacent, properties as well. And this is the latest application that we brought before you for consideration of these 8 lots. We had previously created parcels off this land holding and with your approval. And the reason to appear before you this evening is that there are other considerations outlined in the report on page 7 and 8, 7, 6 and 7, excuse me, that necessitate us bringing it forward this year. The intention is that through the creation of these lots, we can finalize some land swaps and some parcel consolidations that will help facilitate some future plans in the area. I can go into a little detail of that. Specifically severed lot 3, which is a larger parcel of 80 meters in front of you on page 4 of the report. That is to be exchanged for another parcel. And in order to move that forward, the parcel would have to be created here tonight. And that would allow that to progress as part of a future application we'd be bringing forward to you, hopefully in 2025, but perhaps later on. In terms of the provincial policy statement, I'm not sure if the committee is aware, but yesterday at the AMO conference, the ministry released the 2024 provincial policy statement. And we've just been able to digest it quickly. It will be coming into effect October 20th. And I think it's kudos to East Ferris that many of the policies that are being changed within the upcoming provincial policy statement are very much in line with what this council and what this committee has been doing, encouraging rural lot creation, encouraging opportunities for housing in rural centers, rural settlement areas, and within municipalities identified areas for lot creation. So in that context, we're still reviewing this under the provincial policy statement 2020. This of course encourages things like the not extending services where not necessary, using existing resources. Levine Road, of course, is municipally maintained, it's plowed, it's school bus service and all of the things that would normally necessitate lot creation. And these lots would be compatible with existing properties that are under private ownership directly across the street and up and down that road. In terms of the official plan, it's designated rural. This is a very similar application to the ones that this committee has considered previously. The intent of leaving that gap that you see in front of you between proposed severed lots 6 and 7 is if and when there was an opportunity to look at something on the retained land, that is the width of a road allowance to allow something to progress in the future if the market bears it and if there's an opportunity to do so. There is a large wetland complex within this 100 acres, the original 100-acre parcel. We've done quite a bit of work on that portion of it. The application you're considering tonight is almost 300 meters away from any of that complex. And again, because it's fronting on the existing road, I refer to it as low-hanging fruit in terms of a lot creation opportunity. It meets the infill policies as well in that you're creating lots between existing lots and providing more opportunity for that efficient development on those roads. The last time we were here, we talked a little bit about the hydrogeological study that was completed and we provided Mr. Curtin with an addendum to that explaining that the hydrogeological work that was completed for the whole land holdings, meaning the original 4 100-acre parcels and some abutting lands. And that was done strategically to make sure that, you know, that when we bring these applications forward to you, that work has already been completed. The traffic study that was completed in February 2024 did the same. It anticipated full build out. And when I say full build out, it's conceptual plans of what could happen there and a maximum number of entrances, exits, driveways, those types of things. And that was considered in the traffic plan that was submitted and approved back in the winter. So the one item that we've noted and we've discussed previously is that within the OP there is that the rural lot creation policies on the number of lots. We've, and by our count, created 23 lots this year. The rolling average of lots allows us to beg, borrow, and steal from previous years where we did not meet that cap or that quota and still be supported. Your official plan has the policies that the provincial policy statement is encouraging in terms of some flexibility to consider additional lot creation if it is in the interest of the community and if it's in the will of the council and makes good planning sense. So that's what we're bringing forward this evening for you. You know, based on that analysis, we're of the opinion that it's definitely consistent with the provincial policy statement. We are in conformity with the official plan and represents good planning. Happy to answer any questions specifically about this application.
Turn out to the committee. Any questions?
You have one. You mentioned something about having to do it now. I'm sorry, I missed it.
So without giving too much detail on a land transaction, there's an owner who owns a piece that our clients are looking at consolidating with their land holdings, which would make it a much more viable development opportunity that's closer to where we're sitting here this evening. Better land in exchange for one of the lots that would be created here tonight, or in exchange, of those lands for the lot 3 that's in front of you.
Yourselves are the old land.
Yes, correct. It's one of the abutting owners on Levine who is, obviously isn't here this evening because that would be a conflict, but they're, certainly supportive of the application in terms of and their intentions.
Any further questions? Or
So the road allowance, that's the 26. See, is that what I'm seeing there? 7 and 6 severed lot?
7th lot? Yes.
Right, okay.
Yes.
So that's going to have access from Levine Road to that land behind.
Yes.
So that land behind is going to be developed eventually, possibly sometime down the road?
We don't know. We're leaving that as an opportunity if it could be developed, but that's a future plan and there'd be a lot of work that would be involved in bringing that forward for your consideration or council's consideration, how that would go. There, as I said, when you get into that property, we have to identify the lands that are actually viable for developing. We know there's a wetland complex back there, and if it's possible to accommodate, that might be something that's brought forward at a future date. But because our client owns all the land holdings, it makes a lot of sense to leave an access in there in case it is potentially developed in the future.
So this section of land.
Yes.
I keep going. So this part of the land and then the Corbeil, the 13 lots that we
Yes,
severed is part of the hydrological study.
yes.
The land that is being accessed by that road is not part of that study. So if that would be developed, it would have to have its own hydrological study, or you said something like 4x100.
Yeah, so the little inset photo speaks to they're not quite 4x100 because obviously over the years, there's been a number of lots that have been carved off there by private citizens. The hydrogeological study anticipated that entire landholding, including the 13 lots on Corbeil. What we would do under Mr. Curtin's direction is when we bring forward applications like this evening, we do an addendum to identify the sections of the much larger hydrogeological study that apply to that lot creation possibility. But the short answer to your question was the work anticipated the full build out of all of this. Yes.
Even that, the retained area back in there.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So when you, in the scope of the percentage of the lots that was looked at on this, that would be, less than 5% of what the study identified.
Say that again.
Just when you look at the 8 lots that are proposed there, and if you were to consider that on the frontage of all these different areas or even rural residential estate, it's a small portion of what the hydrogeological study.
Okay, I get that.
Yes.
Right?
And the addendums that are being done, they're being monitored by the municipality?
So what Mr. MacArthur is saying is, when they submitted their initial report for the lots on the other side of the road, they had looked at those ones specifically, and then each time they're bringing forward a new proposal, they're providing a small addendum to show how the reflected proposal fits in with the broader study that they'd already completed.
We monitor.
So this is something that's coming in with each application and is part of your packages.
Any other further questions? Overview, please.
Sure. So I'll start with correspondence. We received comments from the MTO stating this is outside of their jurisdiction and have no objection. We did receive comments from the North Bay Mattawa Conservation Authority late this afternoon, so they weren't part of the circulation that you received in your packages. They also indicated the presence of wetlands across the broader site, which Mr. MacArthur mentioned in his comments. They have no objection in principle to the application. They just noted that any development within any regulated area would be subject to a DIA permit, which is typical operating practice for the Conservation Authority. As far as staff reports go, so I think the justification report submitted with the application and Mr. MacArthur's comments did a really good job explaining the planning rationale for this file. But I did want to touch briefly on the policy that we've talked about a couple times at this committee, where our official plan references an assumed number of about 25 consents per year, and how we have treated that as a bit of a flexible number from year to year. There's a couple of reasons we do that. One, because flow for various factors. So I ran the numbers just so the committee would have them, and the official plan was adopted in 2016. So running all the numbers for new lot creation, excluding lot additions because that's not creating a new lot, or severances that were in the village designation, which would be the core areas of Masterville and Corbeil, because the policy references only rural lot creation and waterfront lot creation. We're sitting at approximately 22 severances per year. So we are coming in below that anticipated average of 25 per year. Another thing that I think is kind of worth bearing in mind when we're considering like overall development plans and concepts is that there is an assumed number of lots that would be developed through rural subdivisions. And when we look at rural subdivision figures, the last time we received a new application for a rural subdivision was actually in 2018. So it's been quite a few years since we've had that type of application. So I think when you're considering the fact that there have been no new lots applied for since 2018 through rural subdivisions, and average for the life of the plan is below that assumed number of about 25 per year. Although we are over 25 created this year, I think in the broader planning context, it does make sense and does fit in with what the plan's vision was for lot development in East Ferris. So because of those factors, I don't have any concerns with the application from a lot creation perspective. From a technical perspective, with regards to the hydrogeological study, because they did this for a much broader theoretical development, like pattern that may come in the future, the test data was substantial. So they relied on 5 test wells, and I think it was around 174, 175 well records. Relying on data from 5 test wells for a development of this size is very large. It's not common that you would see this level of like real-time data. And I mean, there's more than enough water to service these lots. So those are my comments. I agree with the planning rationale provided by the applicant, and I think our specific policies are supportive for those reasons I explained.
Thank you. Any members of the public want to address? Oh, sorry, Frank.
It's okay. So Greg, you were saying, we're at 22 now?
So
We're
we
allowed 22, we're at 25, so we're 3 over.
so what our policy says when we're speaking to lot creation by way of consent, so consent to sever individual lot creation in the rural areas and in the waterfront areas, it anticipates that we'll do about 25 per year in a calendar year
For the whole area.
for all of East Ferris. And so it does say that will be the maximum number in a calendar year. But what I was trying to get at was that when we look at the life of the plan since 2016, when it was adopted, we're averaging about 22 per year. So there have been certain years. There was one year in 2022, I think it was, we did about 45. So we were quite a bit more. But then you go back to 2018, 2019, we're about 10. So it kind of comes and goes with development cycles. And I was just pointing out that our average over that time since 2016 has been around 22, so below that 25 kind of expected number.
Okay, so moving forward, if we had other applications, would they be accessible to being approved, or would they be deferred?
Well, I'll be tracking the data, and it'll be up to the committee to decide. So if we're about 3 below per year on average right now over the course of, what would that be, 8 years, I guess, then we would need essentially 25 more severances this year to stuff even with the average. And on top of that, there's other factors to consider, such as the subdivision policies and all of the policies contained within section 915 of the plan about just general consent creation. So it kind of depends on a case by case basis, but that's just a snapshot of where we stand today.
Thank you.
So right now, we're at 31 after tonight. 20, yeah. 21, and then we have these 8, and then 2 more.
So I think we're at 34 this year. I think Mr. MacArthur was saying they've done that many. So there've been other applications
Right.
from other people besides his client.
Right.
But when I ran the numbers, I got to 34. And that's factoring in the application before you right now, and also the 2 potential lots for the next application that could be approved. And that's removing any lot additions or lot line adjustments or anything in the village areas.
Do not anticipate coming back to the committee anytime soon. And the intention was always to subdivide these or come forward with the consent where you're planning on it later. The necessity of some of the property exchanges, that's why we brought it forward this.
So one more thing, at the last meeting, when we subdivided the 13 lots, a couple people came up to me about the conflict of interest that Tulloch did the hydrolyte. So if you could explain that again, so it's attached to this, and then we'll do it again when you come for the bigger thing, just so that people know that that we're doing our due diligence.
Yeah. We undertook when we met with our clients, we undertook the study for the entire area. And we engaged with Matt Hartford, who I hope was going to be here this evening and unavailable to attend the meeting personally to answer some of the questions. But Matt is a professional engineer, and he is probably the foremost expert in the region on both hydrogeological considerations and septic considerations. So he's well respected. He is contracted by Tulloch. That is true for these types of applications, but he also does work for private sector clients outside of our business. So he did the study that spoke to the entire land holdings. And as Mr. Curtin alluded to, it was very thick and very full of very comprehensive data. And for the average person was very difficult to digest and understand. So as we bring forward, we are making sure that the application we're bringing forward for you to consider, that it is tying into what we'll call, for lack of a better term, the master plan for the hydrogeological study that was completed. And without putting a PNG ring on, we do know that the study came back with very high levels of available water for both quantity and quality. And certainly enough for these 8. If we came forward with another rural residential estate subdivision, we'd have to look at it on the basis of that application and do an addendum and to make sure that it's factored into the overall hydrogeological master plan, if you would.
Well, and you also mentioned that there's a lack of his expertise in the area.
Very much so. East Ferris is as we've talked about many times, in my humble opinion, doing things correctly and doing things that, as I started in my comments tonight, that the province is recognizing, and it's what they want municipalities, in particular rural municipalities, to start doing and start considering. Mr. Degania, who's here tonight, would be happy to speak about the market and the way that that's changed. It used to be that, it was difficult to look at housing opportunities in rural areas. Now it's very much a desired way, particularly since the pandemic. There's been people wanting to move to the north. They want larger acreages, larger lots, larger opportunities, and a bit of that lifestyle. And we're certainly seeing that. I mean, I think it's fair to say that it's certainly going to outpace a few communities and some larger communities this year in terms of interest, activity, construction, assessment, and all those things that are encouraged by all your provincial policies.
If I have a chance to speak just for a second, there's 2 things about this for the general public. 2 things that council has done their best to aspire to is promote sustainable planned growth. That's why we have a professional planner. And also, when we put in the number of 25, it was fluid, as Mr. Curtin here referred to. Sometimes it's been as high as 43, 45, sometimes as low as 10. But we certainly want to we don't want to stifle growth, we want to promote growth if it's planned and professionally done, that's why we're doing due diligence. Exactly, and that's one of the reasons you're here. And we look at professional developers, and we don't take anything for granted. That's why the studies are being done. So I just put it, not to put a cap on it. It's open to anybody who wants to ask questions, but that's what we've aspired to. And this is my 6th term on council, and we've been doing this for a number of years now. But we certainly wouldn't want to limit. We don't limit any developers if they're professional and they follow the official plan. So just a little clarification. And the fact that this committee could pass and adhere to maybe 40, 50 lots of severance, that wouldn't mean they're being built this year or in the next 5 years. Because quite frankly, to do that kind of building, you need a lot of tradespeople. And I think there's a shortage of tradespeople across Northern Ontario. And that's one of the reasons little aside, I sit on the Phenom board as a director for a number of years now. And we've been promoting, trying to get more tradespeople being trained in the north and living in the north. So, because there's a shortage.
Yeah, thank you for your comments.
Anything further, committee? Everybody okay with it? Can I have a mover and a seconder, please?
By Frank, seconded by Stephanie, that consent applications B 2024-26 through B 2024-33 submitted by Tulloch Geomatics on behalf of 1000328 Ontario Inc., requesting permission to create 8 new lots be approved conditional upon the completion of the standard conditions listed in the notice of decision.
All in favor? That's passed. Thank you very much for your presentation, Steve.
Thank you very much.
We now come to A 2024-09, B 2024-34, and B 2024-35. MUN and Rajon Grew, 525 Grew Road. Purpose of the requested consent is to allow for the creation of 2 new lots for residential purposes. The owners are also applying to permit a variance to zoning bylaw 2021-60. The applicant is seeking a minor variance to permit a reduction in the required lot area to 1.68 acres, whereas zoning bylaw 2021-60 requires a minimum lot size of 2 acres. Would someone come forward and make the presentation, please? You gentlemen can introduce yourselves, please.
So I'm Jeremy Grew, I'm Renee Grew, and fans of boards.
Sir,
Welcome to the meeting.
thank you. Thanks for having us. Yeah, so we're here to present council today that we would like to sever 2 lots off an existing lot. One for myself, one for my brother. So we can both build houses one piece. And we're also seeking for a minor variance for the 1 lot that is under the 2 acre minimum. If you guys have any questions about that, go ahead with us.
Any comments from the committee? Questions? Explanation, please.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So for this one, we received comments from the MTO as well, also advising that it's outside of their jurisdiction. We also received comments from the North Bay Madawa Conservation Authority at the end of the day today. Very similar to the last application, they advised that there is the presence of the river backing onto these lots, and there would be the potential for a development interference alteration DIA permit if development was close to the river. I don't think that will be an issue. You can see on the applications site plan, actually, they've identified building envelopes and shown where building sites could be. But it may be subject to a DIA permit from the Conservation Authority. That's all the correspondence. We didn't receive anything from anyone in the neighborhood. So with this one, I'll just maybe touch on the 2 separate applications, because the circulation did kind of happen in multiple phases, and you were circulated your documents in 2 separate phases. So they initially had applied for the severance, and there was a different drawing to the one that's shown on the plan here that was initially submitted and circulated. And it showed that both of the lots to the left were undersized. But what happened was the lot line wasn't drawn along the bank of the river. So after speaking with the applicants and having them revise the plan and recalculate, they did show that the 1 lot was able to still meet 2 acres. And the reason why it kind of ended up this way after we went back and forth a little bit was that instead of making both the lots a little bit under 2 acres, it simplified the application process to just do 1 minor variance associated with the 2, and then have just the 1 undersized. They both do meet the frontage, and overall, when you look at all 3 lots together, the average is greater than 2. The reason why the 3.68 acres, which is the retained lands, can't be further reduced to accommodate a larger middle lot is because of the presence of the buildings and structures. I think it's the garage on the edge of that property. So that they needed to maintain a certain separation distance from the existing buildings on that lot line. So ultimately, they decided to apply for a minor variance. I think when you're looking at the intent of our minimum lot sizes when it comes to area and frontage are to maintain generally consistent development patterns. And so along this area, you're seeing a piece of land that has more than ample frontage. So in some areas, you could have as many as 5 lots in the amount of frontage they have. And so from the street, you'd see house, house, house. And they have a bit of a very irregular shaped piece of land because of the way it follows the bank of the river. So ultimately, they have enough land overall, and their development pattern will look very normal and consistent from the street. So yes, they're applying for a slight reduction in the overall minimum or in the minimum size of the middle lot. But when they all are kind of considered together, I think it does make a lot of sense given the layout of the lot and what they're trying to do. So I don't have any concerns with whether or not the overall proposal meets the general intent of our planning documents.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the committee? Frank?
Did you say we got something from Mattawa?
It just came in at the end of the day today, so it wasn't circulated in your application package.
And
They had no concerns, but they just advised that if the applicants did seek to get a building permit for something close to the river, they may be subject to permitting requirements from the Conservation Authority.
yeah, Kim, is there any way of putting that condition in the
Well, it's the same as the last application where they just advised that the presence of a water feature or a wetland can always potentially necessitate an application. So by default, the Conservation Authority has the jurisdiction to require permits within 30 meters of any lake, water course, wetland, et cetera. So regardless of whether the committee, I guess, speaks to any condition on that, the Conservation Authority can do that and require that no matter what. So if the committee wants to put a condition like that, they can. It's just that it's kind of redundant because the Conservation Authority has that ability no matter what this committee does.
Straight question, gentlemen. You have a problem, no problem staying away from the river? Okay,
No, and the envelopes defined on the blueprint itself, it is actually derived from the flood plan that we reached out to Mattawa Conservation. So we already have that documentation and it's been attached to the application as well. So
okay. Is that all your concerns, Frank? Legitimate concern?
I'm fine.
That's good. Lauren, any questions? Questions?
No other correspondence.
No correspondence? Anybody in the public? Well, if it's, I don't think there'd be an objection from the back of the room. Anyway, and have a mover and seconder, please, that raise in favor. Steve?
Minor variance application A 2024-09 submitted by Emilian and Regine Rue requesting a minor variance to permit a reduction in the required lot area to 1.6 acres, whereas zoning bylaw number 2021-60 requires 2.0 acres be approved, and that consent applications B 2024-34 and B 2024-35 submitted by the same requesting permission to create 2 new lots be approved, conditional upon the completion of the standard conditions listed in the notice of decision.
All in favor? It's passed. You'll be in touch with the.
Yeah, we'll be in touch with you in the next couple of days with a copy of the decision. So it'll have all the information that the city decided tonight. And then there's a 20-day appeal period. And then after that, you can start working on the conditions. So there's a series of conditions, including survey work, a little bit of legal paperwork, and you have 2 years to complete that. But we'll send you all the documentation.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you. Any correspondence information? I believe there's an application that was put out on, I believe, the East Ferris Post, if I'm not mistaken, looking for, didn't know of anybody interested in being on the committee. And John, sorry,
It's on our website and
Okay.
our Facebook page as well.
okay.
Has anybody applied?
Not yet. think it's open until September 6th or 5th, the Friday.
Good. John, just letting the committee know, John gave a number of reasons for resignation due to a number of years. We're gonna miss him. He's knowledgeable and knows the municipality pretty well. And anyway, yeah, but family and grandkids and hey, time moves on. Anyway, yeah,
Priorities.
right,
I do have one comment, Mr. Chair.
yeah,
I had some people approach me and just mention that when some of the people are talking,
yes.
they can't hear on YouTube. I don't know anything about YouTube, so I don't know if we can correct that or
This is a new system. I don't think we've had this one since our last planning meeting.
it's the new one.
Yeah, we've had 2 council meetings, so it should be better now with this system.
Okay, thank you. I just thought I'd mention.
No, I appreciate it because I know I've been once or twice by Zoom. Warren, you've come in by Zoom once or twice. And I found a lot of it depends on who's talking, because some people are just naturally, they have a soft voice. No one I know, but there's people with soft voices. No, but I mean, it really, and it becomes indistinct and you're trying to listen. And the volume set, some people's voice carries, some people doesn't.
Mhm.
And I know I was at a phenomenal meeting on Sunday afternoon from Ottawa, and some people bring a bell, other people take a whisper. And so it's up and down, yeah. I think the only, one thing I did like was in one council chamber, and they had individual microphones. And if you're talking, then the other microphones are muted, because you get crosstalk and that can be unsettling too. Anyway, yeah. Anything in camera required? No correspondence? Nothing major? A lot of information coming out of Ottawa, obviously,
Yeah,
about growth, and I know Phenom was pushing at the meeting, there's a big push on for immigration to be taking place in the north. Because immigrations, for the most part, immigrants tend to go where there's jobs available, obviously, labor, intensive labor and so forth. Hamilton, Montreal, Toronto, definitely. And we're looking in Northern Ontario for people to be, but then you gotta have homes too, they have to have somewhere to live. And that's an issue everywhere, it seems to be. Anyway, so have a mover for adjournment, please. Okay.
Steve,
I'll learn to understand.
At 7:12 PM and meet again on September 18th, 2024.
And everybody in favor? Enjoy the